Let's talk about how to use digital storytelling. With digital storytelling and storyboarding, your first piece you want is some sort of introduction. This slide of our storyboard is going to operate as our introduction for this storyboard. So let's talk about what a storyboard actually is and what is contained within that. So a storyboard helps the user or a designer map visuals or images of a particular story, scenario, or sequence. So basically, it could be anything. So what's great about storyboards is it gives you the option to map out something in a fashion. And this example is done using PowerPoint, but you can use Canva. You can use many tools online like Storyboard that. There are also a plethora of other tools. Really, the sky is the limit because a storyboard is very open and isn't constrained to one thing. So it's important to think that storyboards are fluid. It depends on who you're talking to, what your purpose is, who your audience is. Basically, things are going to change. And even what the main components of a storyboard is may shift depending on who you're talking to. So for example, the American College of Education would say that the three major components are introduction, the content or the body, and then the conclusion. This is accurate. But also if we talk about UXable, they say the three components of a storyboard are scenarios, visuals, and descriptions. That is also accurate. So it's important to think about the fact that storyboards are fluid, they're flexible, and really they can be whatever you need them to be. So if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see 6 reasons to use storyboards for e-learning course development. So first of all, let's talk about course development because e-learning is something we all are familiar with as educators. Or if you're not familiar, it's something you will touch at some point in your career, most likely. So first of all, the first reason or the first benefit is that it's going to help you have consistency in everything you do. It'll specify to the designer, the visual designer, the graphic designer, whatever you want to call them, what they specifically need to create. It will also, a storyboard will also detail all the interactions that a programmer will need to build within the course. It explains how a page in the course needs to be animated or how it needs to be synchronized with the audio narration. It can help a SME, our subject matter expert, review the course, and it kind of gives that first look into the course and how things are going to flow. And then last, it gives easy buy-in for the client to approve and sign off on because it shows what everything is going to look like. Now, let's spin that to the actual classroom because as you probably can consider, a storyboard is an incredibly powerful tool to use with students. So first of all, let's talk about consistency. Basically, here's the thing. It can help students map out their ideas. Secondly, it specifies what the visual designers need to create, right? So really, it gives students a direction for a final project. Say they map out a storyboard first, and then they create a final project. It gives them direction. So it also details the interactions for, let's say, a big project that might be group work for students, or in the case of you as the teacher, it can spell out what a student is going to do and make it clear to you. Fourth, it explains how a page within a course or a component within a project should be animated or synchronized. Basically, how is it going to function? It helps the subject matter experts. That's going to be you in most cases in the classroom, and it gives an elevator view of the course or the project. And then lastly, it helps the clients approve easier. So in the educational setting, that's you, the teacher. So now let's take a look at storyboards and how that intersects or crosses over with UDL. So first, let's review UDL. UDL is essentially thinking about how we can be accommodating to our students, how we use those best practices, and how we provide options for students for them to provide their knowledge and demonstrate their learning. So UDL is specifically looking at providing multiple means of engagement representation, and action and expression. And as you can see from looking at this matrix, there's a number of ways you can do each of these things. Now, let's take a look at a specific example using a storyboard. So this is a little bit of, maybe storyboardception. We're going to put a storyboard within the storyboard and talk about UDL. So we now have our matrix on the right-hand side, and we have a storyboard on the left-hand side. All of these look at multiple modes of action and expression. So providing options for learning, it gives a visual, and then it also tells the text of what is happening. So if we go back and think about our options for what a storyboard needs to contain, this would be like the meat or the content of a storyboard. It also, if you think about going back to that other definition of components, right, we're seeing the interactions here, and we're looking at, right, scenarios, we're getting a visual, and we're getting a description all at the same time. So, for example, here, if we look at provide options for action, right, we see that this student here is sitting. This student is choosing to be on a laptop. This student is up doing something, and this student is working with some sort of manipulable at the table. So if you see here, it says students approach learning tasks differently. Ms. Darcy's students are able to choose the mode that best suits their physical ability, their learning profile, or language skills. And we can very clearly see that in this scenario with the visual and the text. So that's just one example of many. So as we look towards incorporating this in the classroom, it's important to make storyboarding your own. One crucial thing to understand is there's no one right way to use a storyboard or storyboarding, either as yourself, the teacher, or for students. What is crucial, though, is to understand that they should be personalized and they should change and adapt based on the students you are working with and how you're using them. Basically what that means, give clear instructions to students, right? Give them a process, make it make sense, but allow them to vary it, allow them to make it their own as long as they're demonstrating their learning, because everyone learns differently. Kanban stresses that it's important to consider a number of different options and factors in storyboards. These can include learning objectives, interactions that need to be developed, audio cues, navigation, and feedback for assessments, among many other items. I want to draw your attention to this over here, right? This graphic on the left-hand side of the screen talks about digital storytelling. Now, digital storytelling is a way, or storyboarding is actually a way of digital storytelling. And it's important for us to think about that this graphic is messy. Storyboarding might be messy. That's okay. You start with a thought, you end with your outcome, and that process in between, you'll see that there are some recognizable pieces in here, but everything else is what was relevant to this person at the time. And there's going to be levels, there's going to be different factors, and that's okay. Everyone's storyboard is going to look differently. Now we're going to go ahead and wrap up. This would operate as what the American College of Education would call our conclusion. These are just a few sum up points. Make storyboards your own. Make your storyboard your own. Storyboarding can look differently from time to time. It doesn't need to look the same every time. And in fact, it probably should not look the same every time. Storyboarding complies with UDL, which makes it a great practice to use in the classroom. And storyboards can be made with a wide variety of different tools. I went ahead and I put a graphic on the right-hand side of the screen. And this shows a number of different ways that you can do both digital storytelling and digital storyboarding. You can do a storyboard on almost all of these, in addition to many other platforms and tools on the web as well. And last but not least, this is a list of references used within this storyboard. So you are free to look up any of these. These are great resources to take a look at. I'm hoping you now can see some ideas on how to do a storyboard.